following presentation will cover ultrasound in daily life and is presented by Dr. Gangbing Song and Gunta Lu in association with IEEE's UFFC Society. This presentation will cover what is ultrasound, how do we produce ultrasound in animals, and ultrasound in daily life. Ultrasound is a blend word that combines the Latin root ultra, meaning beyond, and the English word sound. Sound waves with frequencies above the human audible range, i.e. above 20,000 Hz, are considered ultrasonic waves. Ultrasonic waves are produced mainly by two methods, the magnetostriction generator and the piezoelectric generator. Ultrasonic waves are widely used by animals such as bats, moths, and whales to detect prey and evade attackers. The following video will go into greater detail.
Some animals use additional senses to see the world differently than humans. One such sense is called biological sonar. Biological sonar is when an animal releases a series of sounds that may not be audible to humans and waits for the echoes to return. Toothed whales, which includes porpoises, are one of two types of animals that use biological sonar to sense and navigate through their environment. The only other animals known for this ability are bats. Porpoise clicks are released through the fatty, roundish tissue on the front of their head called the melon. The clicks, which are focused by the melon into a narrow beam about 12 degrees wide, are released relatively slowly at first until they return an echo, signaling a nearby object. If this object is prey, the porpoise will close in on it. The closer the porpoise gets, the more clicks it will release. The click rate increases to several hundred clicks per second just as the prey is captured. These clicks are one of the most high-pitched signals produced by any animal. The time between the released clicks and the returning echo tells the porpoise the distance and location of the nearby object. Biological sonar produces a very different view on the world from vision. For instance, what the porpoise senses with its biological sonar is probably not how humans see in 3 dimensions, but rather more like a 1- or 2-dimensional representation of the world. The porpoise's view of its environment is updated with each new click it releases. This is a more limited perspective compared to our vision. However, biological sonar allows porpoises to move through their surroundings without the need for sight. One way to gain a better understanding of the porpoise's biological sonar is to imagine using a flashing light while moving through a pitch-black environment to find a hidden object. Each newly released flash returns a visual snapshot of your surroundings. If obstacles, such as trees, are far apart, you can freely move around with fewer flashes. If a flash detects the hidden object, such as an apple in a tree, you can increase the flashes to get a better visual of the object and thus determine its distance and exact location. The porpoise's way of sensing its surroundings is disrupted by noises emitted by pile driving, seismic explosions, and ships, just to name a few. Understanding how they detect their underwater world can help protect them. To learn more about the research behind this fascinating ability, read the article The Acoustic World of Harbor Porpoises in the January-February 2015 issue of American Scientist.
Is ultrasound far from our daily life? Can you find some devices that use ultrasound? Of course you can. Ultrasound is very close. This morning you might use it without even noticing.
Introducing Emident, the revolution in dental hygiene. Cleans your teeth and mouth with ultrasound and our nano bubble toothpaste. Just hold the brush head to the teeth without brushing, and billions of super small bubbles will implode and clean away plaque and bacteria. The super small bubbles creep into the smallest crevice and clean away discoloration from coffee, wine, nicotine, and food, which whitens your teeth. Ultrasound cleans where no bristle can reach. It cleans deep inside the tissue too. Since bacteria is killed, inflammation and other problems will vanish. Bacteria is the reason for most dental problems. Since ultrasound penetrates the gums and kills bacteria in the tissue, it protects your implants and the roots of your teeth. After cleaning with EmiDent, you have a fresh feeling for up to 12 hours. Your breath will be fresh, and your teeth will feel like new.
Ultrasonic scaling is one of the most effective procedures for treating periodontal disease. An ultrasonic scaler consists of a wand with a small scaling tip that produces a soft ultrasonic vibration. The small, quick vibrations in combination with a gentle water flow thoroughly removes tartar while decreasing the number of destructive bacteria below the gum line. Removing tartar and bacteria are crucial to controlling periodontal disease. Periodontal disease, an infection of the teeth, gums, and the bone that surround the teeth, begins when plaque, the sticky film of food and bacteria, builds up.
Put a dash of soap. Okay, it automatically shuts off after 3 minutes, and I'm pretty impressed. Pretty much all the dirt is off of there. There's some warm soapy water. So this is a good tool for cleaning the dirt off of clad coins from metal detecting. It's also good to clean up some jewelry. This is called the Ultrasonic Cleaner CD2800. Got it on Amazon.com for 25 bucks. Thanks for watching. See y'all next time.
The following video will demonstrate an ultrasonic surgical instrument cleaner and give us an idea of how it works. This video will show an ultrasonic humidifier.
The transducer delivers an ultrasonic beam and provides real-time acoustic and optical feedback on treatment. It uses multi-directional acoustic waves to ensure that focused energy is applied to the selected area only. Specific ultrasound parameters of pulse length and energy level ensure selective damage to fat cells only. Non-adipose tissue, not being susceptible to these parameters, remains untouched and undamaged. Built-in controls verify acoustic contact and monitor transducer temperature during treatment. The ultrasound wave causes mechanical disruption of fat cell membranes. The content, primarily made up of triglycerides, is released into the interstitial fluid, where they are processed by physiological metabolic pathways. As the cell membranes are compromised and triglycerides are released, the body begins a gradual process of breaking them down into glycerol and free fatty acids. The free fatty acids bind to albumin and are slowly transported to the liver for removal or to other tissues and used as building blocks or energy. Glycerol, being water-soluble, is passed among both interstitial and systemic fluids, then processed through the liver or used in other cells. The entire process takes less than a week.
Gary and I took a cruise to Alaska, and while he was there, he got a bad sinus infection that continued to bother him. So eventually he went to an ENT. He said, "Oh, just on an off chance, we're going to send you for an MRI," and that's how they discovered the tumor, an acoustic neuroma.
When you hear the word brain tumor, you immediately think of your mortality.
But I am concerned.
Learning you have a brain tumor, it's a terrifying thing, but Dr. Harar Shahinian, medical director of the Skull-Base Institute of Los Angeles, has developed some really interesting and innovative techniques to help remove them. Thank you for joining us, because I am really excited to share some of these new techniques you're using, because for someone like Gary, this is his MRI, he had a really large tumor.
He did, and thank you for inviting me. Gary had the largest, what we call a grade 4 tumor, which, as you can see here, this entire thing is the tumor. And this thing here is his brain stem, which is really the most important part of the brain, and you can see how it's pushed over to the right side. This is his left side by the tumor.
So the tumor is having a mass effect, and without getting rid of that tumor, because that was a tumor in precious territory, correct?
The most precious territory. That's a lethal tumor.
Now, out of curiosity, before we get to some of the more nuanced elements of what you do, is there any rhyme or reason to who gets tumors like this?
Well, this specific tumor is a mutation. The incidence is 1 in every 100,000 people. So we get about 3,000 of these tumors in the United States per year. But it's not hereditary. It doesn't, just because somebody in your family had it doesn't mean you're going to have it.
But the brain, precious territory, and go through, let's talk about the old technique to remove a tumor like this?
This is the way it's done everywhere in the world currently in 2013. Two teams of surgeons, they drill a fairly large hole behind the ear. They bring the ear forward, the first team. The second team puts in a metal retractor to push the cerebellum, which is the lower brain, not the upper brain, but the lower brain. And there's the tumor, about the same size as this gentleman's tumor, and the tumor is taken out piecemeal. Usually a 12-hour procedure, a 2-week hospitalization with at least a week or 5 to 7 day stay in the ICU. This is a piece of fat from the abdomen because there's such a big hole that you worry about brain fluid leaking from the incision. So you use the fat to block it.
Big operation, big recovery. But you've invented something that is quite unique.
Well, this is the only place where it's done this way in the world currently. We make a dime-size opening behind the ear like corking a precious bottle of wine. We go in, we encounter the tumor, we don't touch the brain, we don't touch the cerebellum, and we use ultrasonic, it's a form of a vacuum ultrasonically, and we go inside of the tumor and we ultrasonically take out the central core of the tumor to make a large tumor much smaller, and then we take the rest of the tumor, and then we put the piece of bone back in, just like corking back a precious bottle of wine.
So Dr. Shahinian is basically talking about vacuuming out a tumor, which is pretty remarkable.
The heart of most ultrasound systems is a device called a transducer, which uses an array of piezoelectric crystals. A piezoelectric crystal vibrates when an electric signal is applied, producing high-frequency sound pressure waves, which we call ultrasound. More importantly, this type of crystal can also work in reverse. It can produce electrical signals when it detects high-frequency sound pressure waves. When a transducer directs ultrasound waves into the body, they pass right through the skin and into the internal anatomy. As the waves encounter tissues with different characteristics and densities, they produce echoes that reflect back to the piezoelectric crystal. This happens more than 1,000 times a second. Returning echoes are converted to electric signals, which a computer converts into points of brightness on the image, corresponding to the anatomic position and the strength of the reflecting echoes. A medical transducer contains a large array of crystals, which allow it to make a series of image lines that, together, form a complete image frame, called a sonogram. In addition, all the crystals are repeatedly activated many times in such a way that a complete image frame is formed around 20 times per second, so that real-time motion is displayed in the ultrasound image.
The following video will show how ultrasonic sonar is used to locate shipwrecks and detect submarines.
In this video we'll be talking about sonar. Now sonar is the use of sound to see through water. This technique has been used by whales and dolphins for millions of years. We've now taken it and made a form of technology which allows us to do the same. In the image before you we have one variation of how sonar can be used. So you have a ship which has a transmitter and a receiver on it. Now the way it works is that we send out a pulse or a ping. As you can see, it will go down in a single direction. Now the speed of sound is constant, so it stays the same, it doesn't change. So we can actually time how long it takes to go down to the bottom, bounce off an object, and head back up to the receiver. So once we have the time, we divide it by 2, since there's a signal going down and a signal going up, and we'll find out what the depth to the bottom of the sea is. Now that's okay with a situation where the seafloor is nice and flat, but what about if we have an object? So we'll create an object. Okay, here we have a nice rock, and we're going to send a sonar signal down towards it. So the transmitter will send out its ping. We'll make it nice and big so it's nice and clear, and will eventually hit the object. Now when it hits the object, the areas which are closest to the signal will bounce off first, and those which are further in will go last, and those which are furthest away will obviously take the longest before they start bouncing back. And the end result is we'll get a nice reflection which looks like the rock, and that's the signal that will bounce back. So we get a bent or a disturbed signal back, and this allows us to take a 3D image of the object on the ground. Now, we don't just send a single small pulse down, we actually sweep across a large area. So as you can see with this ship, it actually does a nice large space or arc as it travels back and forth. And this means that it can actually search quite a large area as it's traveling back and forth. So you can see here it's an artificially colored chart where the hotter colors are shallowest, as up here. And all of a sudden we have a cliff going down, and as the cliff drops, you can see it going into the cooler colors, and it goes down deeper and deeper. And this ship will travel back and forth through the ocean, mapping it out. Now, oops, went too far. Here is a good example of such an area. So this has been mapped out and then artificially colored to make it easier to see. You can see over here there's a really nice shallow area, so the hotter colors again show the shallowest area, and as it goes to the cooler colors, for the oranges, the yellows, then into greens, and then finally the blues and violets, it becomes deeper and deeper. And you can see features such as cliffs along here, and there's even a small readout which is poking out there. And over here we have a key which shows us what depth each color represents. Now, we don't only use it for these general things. We can also map out things such as this rift. Now, this is exactly what we were discussing when we talked about the mountain range in the Atlantic where the cable first came across. So when they were laying the cable back in the 1800s, they actually came along and they reached this, and they had to go up and over it, and then it sort of dipped into here a little bit and then came up and back down it. And this is how they discovered, so they actually were measuring the depth of the ocean as they traveled, and that's how they discovered this mountain range. And little did they know that this range actually traveled all the way from the North Pole to the South Pole. Now, we actually still have cables running across this ridge, and every now and again, as we have movement of the tectonic plates, it will snap in these areas and have to be repaired. Now, that's the natural features which we have, but mankind's been littering the ocean for many, many years, especially in the last 100 years as we've had lots of wars. And here are a few things which have been discovered since. So as they've mapped around, one of the most famous ones is this one here. For those that you don't know, this is the Titanic. And it was done through finding out, first of all, what its course was, and then finding out approximately where it would be, and then they used side scanning sonar to go back and forth, and they found the Titanic. And what we have here is the actual ship. Now, what I'll show you first is how it looks like from the scanner. So you can see the lines traveling up and down as the sonar traveled back and forth, and over here we have the back of the ship, and over here we have the front of the ship, and they're actually a couple of kilometers apart because it broke up near the surface and then floated away down as it headed down to the bottom. And what we have here is, if you look really carefully, here we have the bow of the ship, and you can see the bridge through here, and then 1, 2, and a little bit of the last funnel towards the back here, and around here is where the ship broke down. So it's a really clear image. Other images which we have, this one here is the Britannic, which is a sister ship to the Titanic. You had the Britannic, the Titanic, and the Olympic. This one here was used as a ship during the war as well, and you can see through here a hole where it was torpedoed and it sank in fairly shallow water. And this is a scanning radar of this. This ship here, the HMS Royal Oak, is a battleship from the Second World War. It has the dubious honour of being the very first battleship which was sunk during the Second World War. And this is a scanning image which they've got of it. And up here, this is actually a German bomber which was sunk in the English Channel during the Battle of Britain, and it was discovered again through side scanning radar. There are hundreds and hundreds of wrecks in the English Channel, and this is one of them that was picked up. This particular plane here has actually been raised since and is now sitting in one of the maritime museums in England. So that is a quick explanation of how sonar works. For the next video we'll be talking about seafloor spreading and the development of tectonic plate theory.
For more information, including references, tutorials, historical data, and links to other websites, including a directory of company websites, please visit the following link. Some of the information is openly available, and some is only available to IEEE UFFC Society members. Further reading can be done at IEEE's electronic library, located at the link below. We'd like to acknowledge the following links for pictures, information, and videos. The end. Thank you very much.